let's talk about actually some long-term price action, because we had an interesting occurrence on the charts, and we're not big on technical analysis here, but this is a long-term metric here, the single or the monthly average. So the SMA crossover happened this week. This is the simple moving average, right? 200-day simple moving average. So it just takes an average of the past 200 days and sort of rolls that forward and kind of smooths out the price here. You can see on the gray line. And when we do cross the 200-day simple moving average, typically followed with quite good returns. So John, you want to elaborate here?
Yeah, I think this is a really well done chart. And the 200-day moving at the vertical lines you see here are 100, 1,000, 10,000, and 100,000. And as Brady said, we crossed the 200-day moving average, went above 100K for the first time just this week. And some very clever people put together this chart and said, okay, what did Bitcoin price do in percentage terms? That's the left-hand side of the chart here. And that is a log scale, right? Yep, that's a log scale on the left, just FYI. And what's interesting is you can kind of see that when we cross those critical thresholds, like the big new order of magnitude, there typically is this big run up in price. And you can see it's a little different each time. In 2013, it was like super quick spike higher and then a blow off top very soon after that. In 2017, I think it's interesting. You look right before that vertical line, that did look like a slow grind higher leading up to 2017. Then we cross 1,000 for the first time on the 200-day moving average. Then we get Euphoria. Then there's a blow off top. The next one, 2021, that's the next vertical line. We cross 10,000 as the 200-day moving average. There's a period of euphoria after. Interestingly, there is that double top in 2021 that we all probably remember. Hit 60 in the spring, back down to 30 on like a Chinese mining ban, flush out, then back to 60 in the fall. So that was kind of a unique thing. I know there's people who have theories about like FTX shenanigans maybe causing the double top. I don't know, but choose your theory on that one. And then the last thing that I think is interesting on this chart is you just look at what is basically from 2024 and on. It has undeniably been a slow grind higher.
Yep.
Like we definitely have not seen a euphoric period. And then this, I want to hear if you guys, think there's anything interesting about this chart that I missed, but this also does beg the debate of what will the cycles look like going forward now that we've crossed this vertical line, this fourth order of magnitude on the 200-day. Do we see a period of euphoria, or are we in a different type of environment now that the ETFs are here, now that the institutions are here? So just this chart alone ends up spurring like a ton of different conversations.
Yeah, so we're looking at the cross of the 100,000, the simple moving average 200-day reaching $100,000. So that's what happened, meaning that we've been chilling at or around or above $100,000 long enough that 200-day moving average is pulled above it. Now, I do notice here that the time between these crossings, the simple moving average crossing those 10,000, 10,000, 100,000, the time between 10,000 and 100,000 is quite a bit longer than the previous. Yeah. And as John also noted, we hit the bottom, the simple moving average locally here in 2023. That's when the price started grinding back up. So it's been over a year and a half of just grinding up. We've seen 20, maybe, I don't know if we've seen a 30% drawdown, but it's been, maybe close to that. And that's been the max. And we just, start grinding back up again. So it's fascinating. Something does feel different about this action. And we've talked a lot about the, super cycle, or this idea where we've entered this new phase of price action because Bitcoin has become more institutionalized, more integrated into the traditional finance system. And that seems to be having an effect on price. And it's frustrating for Bitcoiners who really, during the bull markets, want that euphoric return, right? You want to really rally, enjoy 4 to 6 weeks of going crazy, and kind of been used to that. Right now, we've been denied that, and we're just sort of grinding up. This may be the way forward for Bitcoin price action. Something I've been talking about for 4 or 5 years. I was expecting it to happen maybe a little earlier than it has. Maybe we're here now. We don't see another 80% drawdown again, bear market. We'll start catching, there'll be a small or a higher floor, I guess, because we have lots of big money who would like to get into Bitcoin, and they'll see a buying opportunity, and that size, that scale of buying will keep things from going way further down.
I forget who said it recently, but someone said that Bitcoin's just going to bore us up to $1 million.
I think it was VJ. Probably
yeah,
probably a few people, but I did see VJ say that. Yeah, it's really good.
that's kind of my takeaway looking at this, at that chart, is there's never been so much kind of like tight volatility as there is in that window from 2021 to 2025. Like you just visually, if you kind of zoom out and look at that whole chart, it looks so calm over these last 4 years compared to everything before it.
Yep.
And I'm here for it. Keep me bored. Keep the grind going. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. Here's another look from Wicked on Twitter. Produces really cool charts and data visualizations about Bitcoin. Here's the 200-day moving average and the 200-week moving average. Just take a look as another view into it, and I like to see that weekly moving average as well, which has never gone down, I believe, in the history of Bitcoin. Pierre Rochard commented on this kind of action today, and we've definitely shared this sentiment on the show before as well. He wrote, sideways BTC USD is maintenance that tightens the bolts on a long bull market. Moving averages catch up, support hardens, leverage resets, and new capital onboards. This is how we could avoid steep 80% drawdowns and big bear markets. So I tend to agree with him on this take, and this is what I think we will be looking forward to in terms of Bitcoin price for the coming years.
Absolutely. The one thing that I always talk about with my clients in regards to, is this cycle different, things like that, is just, I look at the market participants, right? Bitcoin, crypto in general is mostly retail driven. Prior to, the ETFs launching, essentially was kind of that major green light. Just to me, it's like, do these market participants act the same way as retail? I don't think they do. So what does that do in terms of price? I don't think we know exactly yet. Could be that boring grind to $1 million. They could be more strategic in different ways, but yeah, there's a lot more different tools in terms of options and such on the ETFs, as well as, these large institutions buying Bitcoin. I don't think they're going to treat it the same way as me or you, or the person that's only had Bitcoin for 1 year, bought the top, sold the bottom type deal, right? So that's the way I look at it. It's just from who is buying this and who was buying before. It's not the same picture.
I agree. I think 4 years ago, you guys probably remember listening to podcasts, content, Twitter, whatever. I was talking about the institutions are here. That was a narrative in 2020, 2021.
Yep.
And like, strictly speaking, did some institutions buy? Obviously, MicroStrategy did, Tesla did, Square did, and some others, right? But the institutions are here was like clearly too early.
Yep.
And it was more retail driven. The Euphoria was more retail driven, like pretty undeniably, in hindsight, at least. Now in this cycle, I think the institutions are here. I think now you can't deny that that's, and retail isn't. But then here's the other thing is like, even if retail comes, I don't know if they'll be able to bid up the price to like Euphoria, just because how do you compete with like, there's like small, quote unquote, small Bitcoin treasury companies that are acquiring 50 million, 100 million worth of Bitcoin.
Yep.
And whatever MicroStrategy is doing on a regular basis, whatever MetaPlanet, the top ones are doing on a regular basis. So I'm starting to feel like I'm in grind higher camp. And of course, that doesn't mean we just stair step higher forever. There's still going to be 20, 30% drops, but like maybe there won't be the Euphoria and big blow off top anymore.
Which is what brings in the retail.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right? Because it gets a bunch of news. Bitcoin's up 20% in the past week, 30%, 40%. And everybody wants to pile in. This is how market psychology works. So if we don't have a huge 30% run up in 2 weeks, then we may not see that kind of retail FOMO. And that, I would argue, is probably a good thing, because then you leave a whole bunch of people with a bad taste in their mouth about Bitcoin because they bought a bunch, and then 6 weeks later it was worth less because it was a blow off top. So it's probably better for retail. That doesn't happen. and it might not now.
Yeah, I mean, the volatility was always one of the like negative arguments against Bitcoin being a savings technology or a money, right? So if that
Yep.
flattens out, I just think it increases the desire. If it's a regular steady rate of return, hopefully that would entice more people to understand Bitcoin and not be so scared.
Historically speaking, 10 corrections Bitcoin has had, if I can trust this Charlie Bolello chart that I just found. He normally puts out good content, so I assume this is true. 10 corrections going back all the way to 2010 from the all-time high. 10 instances of a correction of 40% or more. There have been obviously some like 30, 20% corrections in there too, but not counting those. 10 corrections of 40% or more. Since the ETFs have launched, we've had 2 30+ corrections, 30% plus corrections, but nothing bigger than that.
Yeah.
So that is kind of, we're kind of, it sounds like we're agreeing as a group. That is what we think the price action is going to look more like going forward.
Yeah. I mean, barring some kind of overwhelming macro event or something like that, I think if things are relatively stable in the macro economy, Bitcoin grinds. That's what I think we're seeing here.
Agreed.
Grind all the way to 1 million, guys. Let's go. I'm ready.
Let's go.
Let's be bored. All right. And here's a couple other charts on Bitcoin price. This is the seasonality of Bitcoin, average monthly performance. September is the only month that on average throughout Bitcoin's history actually is a red month. August is really close. It's just above 0% return at 0.23%. So the kind of end of summer doldrums for Bitcoin price, we're sort of in the middle of that right now. In October and November, 2 of the largest return months of the year for Bitcoin. So maybe we'll see a rally up to some new highs, maybe 150 in the next few months in October, November.
They call it Uptober, right?
October, exactly. So interesting to watch that. Here's even more of a breakdown. You can see in October, almost all green months, just four red months throughout Bitcoin's 16-year history in October. And that is the best performing month. February is also pretty good. So you can see there.
One
Jason,
thing that stands, one thing that stands out about that chart to me, if you can pull that back up real quick,
This one here?
squint at it, yeah.
Yep.
In the 20, so if you're comparing right now to previous 4-year cycles, you're oftentimes looking at today versus 2013, 2017, 2021. If you notice in August, all of those months are deep green in August in 2013, 2017, 2021, and we're red there now. So you see a little bit of a divergence there. And it makes me wonder with September coming up around the corner, if we're going to see that same pattern break. Just something that kind of stood out to me there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Some of these biggest month returns just for fun. November 2013, 451% up in a month. This is the kind of blow off tops that we're talking about. April 2011, 352%, followed by 187%. Several months that are just those giant increases, and they coincide with blow off tops that surely, some retail investors who didn't really know what they were investing in and just following the hype would have gotten burned on pretty bad.
Can we give a shout out to November of 2013?
Yeah, I think it did. 451%.
Yeah. I was not around for that one. I did not know Bitcoin did that much in 1 month.
In 1 month. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, August 2017 was pretty wild too. That's almost 74% there. I would have thought, just thinking back to 2017, that's kind of where I had my first exposure to Coinbase account and all that stuff. I would have thought that large number would have been in November. Just thinking back to that seemed like where most of the action happened. So that's a little surprising. Of course, those returns in October, November are also quite big that year. So
yeah. Yep.
2017 was wild.
So the biggest down months then, let's see, I've plenty of 30% drops in a single month. In 2011, 4 red months in a row, including 37, 37, and 35% drop in a row. That's rough right there. So yeah, it looks like mid 30s is about the highest in a given month. So obviously we've had bigger drawdowns than that, but all right.
It's a cool
Fun
chart.
stuff. Fun stuff. Sometimes you like to look at the scoreboard and, like don't watch price. And it's generally good advice not to watch price. I went through a time where I watched price a lot, not just Bitcoin, like a bunch of the other cryptos too. That was like 2017 going into the fork wars and stuff. Watch price all the time. Then when I kind of figured things out and became more comfortable, conviction grew that Bitcoin was the only one that really mattered. I stopped looking at price just as a matter of principle, like to chill me out, reach some kind of Bitcoin Zen, no looking at price as much as possible. Just go for days and days, maybe even weeks without looking at the price. Obviously, accidentally come across it. And now I'm on the other side of that, where I just surround myself with the price everywhere because it doesn't bother me. So I like to know, and it just doesn't have an emotional effect on me anymore. I'm convinced we're going to go to 1 million, and it's just, I'm just waiting however long it takes.
You're in a good place when you don't feel much in either direction, as weird as that sounds. And it's okay. Of course, it's okay to get excited about an all-time high and things like that. But when it just doesn't get to you that much, that's where you want to be.
That's where you want to be. Yeah, that's the second level of Bitcoin Zen. Yeah, it's just, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Right below shaman. You just need the mushrooms.
Check out BTC in DC, happening September 30th, October 1st, coming up really fast. This is at the historic Kennedy Center in Washington, DC. The speaker list is absolutely off the charts. They got Saylor, Natalie Brunell, Jack Mallers, Jeff Booth, Adam Back, Senator Cynthia Lummis, Tur Demeester, Corey Clipston, Samson Mao, goes on and on. Check out btcindc.com. Grab your tickets. We will be there and hope to see you. One last shout out to Mara for helping secure the Bitcoin network. They hold 50,000 Bitcoin in their treasury, and they are the biggest publicly traded miner in the world. Thanks for supporting the show and for securing our stash.